And hello again, and here we are on my drive for part 6 of my project build. As you can see, I've been busy preparing and painting, rather undercoating, etch priming, the side panels and the tail section. And next I'm going to work on the tank, but that's obviously a lot bigger job. And I'm rushing today because the forecast is, later on today, it's going to snow, would you believe? It's getting quite cold now, not ideal for painting, but we'll do our best. And yeah, I reckon it's going to snow for 3 or 4 days, so for those 3 or 4 days I'm not going to be working out here in the snow, so I've got to do what I can. But the bad news is that my rims, my aluminium rims, which I've ordered from Italy, still haven't arrived, and I don't know where they are. They could be in Italy, they could be lost in the post in England, who knows where they are, but at the moment all I can see on eBay is this message, which isn't very helpful, so I'm just going to wait until hopefully they arrive. So now we're on week 6, so I'm slightly behind where I want to be. I want to get this bike back its wheels by week 6, but since I don't have any rims I can't do that, so I'm going to move on and work on other things instead. And the other things, of course, are the paint work and also the electrics. And so here's the tail section hanging up to dry. So this tail section has now had about 4 or 5 coats of etch primer. That's the grey paint. Left it for a few days and now just painted it with this yellow finish, which is the filler primer. That's had about 3 or 4 coats and it's great stuff. It just hides over all those problem areas that I found when I'd rubbed off the pinstripes. So now I'm going to leave it 24 hours, come back and give it 1 more coat of grey primer just to even out the finish before I spray on the first colour coat. You may also notice that I've got a hole drilled in here in the tail section, which is not original. God knows why it was done, but I don't know. So rather than filling it in and spending a lot of time doing that, I thought, no, I'll leave it and I'll find an idea. If I find something to put there, a little badge maybe, a little medallion, don't know yet, but yeah, I'll find something. Right, so let's move on to something else. And so, as you can see, I've just done 2 coats of the candy red on the side panels, and I think they need at least 1 more coat because I can see little areas where it's not too thick. Right, so yeah, it's going okay so far. The paint's going on well. So we'll carry on then when I've got the 2nd coat on or 3rd coat on, and also when I'm painting the tail section. And so there's the first coat of candy red paint on the tail section. And as you can see, as it gets blown around, it's quite a windy day today, which is not ideal for spraying. And in fact I could tell that a lot of my spray was being blown off before it gets to the piece, but what can you do? Today it's quite warm for the time of year, it's sunny and dry, and it's the only sunny, dry, warm day we're going to have for quite a while, so I'm doing the work as I can. So now then, I'm going to let it dry for about 15 minutes or so, and then give it a 2nd coat followed by a 3rd coat. And then I'm going to put it away somewhere safe and warm and dry for at least 4 weeks before I attempt to try and paint the 2K top coat, clear coat on top of this paintwork. And if you watch my recent video on DIY paint jobs, you'll know why I want to wait that long. I want to allow this 1K paint to gas off. It's called gassing off, when even after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks the paint is still emitting molecules of paint as it cures and dries. And if you paint your 2K lacquer on top of that, it can cause all kinds of problems because the 2K lacquer is impervious to that gas, so the gas can get trapped and cause all kinds of problems. It can cause delamination of the paint layers or little bubbles in your paint job, which we don't want. So as I said in my video, patience is a virtue. So once I've got the colour on, I'm going to put it away somewhere safe and leave it for about 4 or 5 weeks. Right, let's turn this off for a second. There we go. Right, so moving on then to the fuel tank, and now I've got to remove the filler cap and the badges. Now normally from the factory these tank badges are screwed onto the tank through 2 little screws here, but they are renowned as a rust spot. Oftentimes the tank will rust behind this badge and the little screws get rusted up and break if you ever try and remove them, and that's what's happened on this particular tank because the screws are missing. So what's keeping the badge in place is some sort of sticky sticky tape or something behind the badge, and that's fine. So I'm just heating up this area to soften this sort of sticky tape so I can remove the badge without breaking it. So let's just turn it back on again. A little hairdryer. Leave it for a while. I'll come back and hopefully the tank badges will come off fairly easily. Right, so that's pretty warm now, so let's see if this works. Oh yes, that's better, isn't it? These badges are quite flexible, but you don't want to bend them too much and break the damn things. They're quite expensive to buy new. There we go. Yeah, that's going off now, isn't it? Oh, this last little bit's hanging on. Let's try a bit more heat, and I'll come back in 5 minutes. Right, try again. I've got a little knife here. Hopefully just slice off this badge. There we go, that's it. So there's a sticky back plastic sort of thing, double-sided sticky tape. Right, so there's the badge off. A bit bent, but we can bend them back, they're quite pliable. And so to remove the filler cap, I've got to knock out a roll pin, which is right there. If I open it up here, you can see there's a hinge. Let me just turn it around a little bit. There's a hinge there, and there's a roll pin that keeps it in place. So I've got to knock that roll pin out. Luckily I've got, and I'll move it back again, I've got a little drift here that will just fit in there. That's fine. But the tricky bit is to hold it steady as I'm hitting it, because I need both hands to hit it, and yet I've still got to hold it steady. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I'll give it a go. Just gentle taps. Actually, I'm doing it the wrong hand, but never mind. Yeah, it's coming out. That's great. Yeah, almost there. That's the way I think. Hear that change? Yeah, it's coming out now. There we go. Will that come off there now? So spring, of course. That'll come off there. There we go. So there's the roll pin that holds it in place, and there's the hinge. So that's a great relief. As you can see here underneath, the rubber seal is actually knackered. I think you can buy a new one, but I'm not sure. But perhaps I'll just buy a complete new filler cap. This has got some weird decal on it, or some weird sort of logo. Loomis, something Rally. I don't know. Anyway, it's a bit rusty, so I think for about £35 or so you can get a brand new filler cap. So I think I'll do that. So now I've got many hours to go to prepare this fuel tank for paint, and to be fair, it's actually not bad condition. I do worry though, because I know it's been resprayed, so who knows what terrible dents I might find once I start to remove this paint. It's also got quite a lot of grazing here, so who knows what I'm going to find. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to remove this this paint. And now here we are, it's a week later, because today is the first dry day we've had for the whole week. So I'm taking the chance to bring the tank out here and give it its first coat of etch primer. It's probably not quite ready yet to be given its colour coat, but it's difficult to see the bad bits and the good bits when it's just all different colours. So I'm just going to spray it with a quick coat of this stuff, which A, will stop it from rusting up, and B, will allow me to see, you know, the really poor bits that need a bit more work. Right, so once again, it's not an ideal day for spraying because it's quite windy, and I can see here the spray's all being blown away rather than getting on the tank. But you do what you can, so let's carry on. Right, so that didn't go too well. I think there's still a bit of water around the filler cap that the spray blew away. I've got a few spots of water now sitting on top of the paint, which isn't ideal, but it doesn't matter because this is just a base coat, just a guide coat. I'm going to flan it all back anyway. So as I'm looking at this now, I can see lots of areas where it needs a lot more work. Around here, for example, and around the filler cap, of course, and also around here I've got some little pinholes of rust here at the base, but nothing too terrible. It's very difficult actually to rub down the area around here because it's difficult to get at, so I'm not sure whether I'll bother trying to get a perfect finish, but I'm sure we can do it a lot better than we've got at the moment. And now, however, it's not all been bad news this week, because this week my new alloy rims finally turned up from Italy, and here we have one of them. This is the rear rim. Pretty pleased with it, and so far I've built up, and then we're halfway through truing up the front wheel. So I then moved on to build up the rear wheel, only to find I had a problem. The spoke set I ordered for a Kawasaki Z650 doesn't fit my rear wheel. The spokes are far too long. So I think what's happened is they've sent me the spoke set for a disc braked rear wheel rather than a drum brake, and so the spokes are too long. So I've now got that sorted out, and a new spoke set is arriving any day now. And hang on, put it down. And when it arrives, I'll build up that rear wheel and get it trued up. Now, I didn't film any of that really because it was, you know, it just takes forever to do, and I have actually made a video about building up and truing up a spoke wheel in the past. I think that's on my Guzzi project. I'll put up a little link here to say which particular video it is, so there's no point just repeating myself. Right, so that's the front wheel done. Got the back wheel to do. Hopefully the spokes will turn up soon, get it built up, then I can get the tyres on it, and at last get the bike back on its wheels, which is the main target for me this month. And now here we are, it's later on the same day, and thankfully the sun came out and the showers went away, so I could continue working on the tank. So I rubbed it down and then addressed a few of the areas that I could find with wet and dry sandpaper, and now I've given it a second coat of etch primer. But I've still got a few areas to address. And so to sort out these small problems, I'm using a combination of filler primer, which is this yellow paint on the tank at the moment, and also this stuff, 1K stopper. Now this is kind of filler. It's actually sometimes called filler stopper or just stopper, and it comes out of a tube like a paste. And the good thing about it is you don't need to mix it with a hardener. It just comes out, you put it straight on the tank or whatever, and it hardens within about 15 minutes. So you can rub it down and carry on. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Not much use for large areas, large problems like on a car, but for a little tank like mine, it's very, very helpful. And now I've applied that stopper, rubbed it flat, and given the tank yet another coat of etch primer. And the good news is this etch primer dries ready for paint within 20 minutes. And so now, before the end of the day, I can give this tank its first coat of silver base colour. Right, so there's a silver colour coat on the tank at last. And as you can see, as I sprayed it, most of the spray ended up going off in the air, off in the wind, but what can you do? So now I've got to wait 24 hours to let this cure. Hang on. Well, there's a helicopter flying overhead for some reason. Yeah, yellow and blue, so I guess it's a police helicopter. Right, so I think that's a good sign for me to stop for the day, and hopefully we can continue tomorrow if it's dry, and I'll... Oh, there it is. It's over there, look. Right overhead, just when I'm filming. What can you do? I don't know. I'll wait a second. Yeah, so it's been quite a long afternoon getting this tank prepared, but now it is. I can leave it for 24 hours. The next dry warm day we get, I'll get the candy red on, and then I've got to leave it for about 4 weeks to gas off, as they say, let all the gases escape the surface of the paint, and then I can apply the 2K top coat, the 2K clear lacquer. So join me then in a day or two and we'll get the candy red on this tank. And so today I've just been dodging the rain showers to get the first coat of paint on the tank, and it didn't go too well. I've got some reactions here. I've got blossom falling from the trees above me, so I think one might actually hit it. There's a little mark here, which isn't ideal, but that's okay. Hopefully the rain will stay off until this paint is touch dry, get it back in the garage until tomorrow. Then I'll go through it again, make sure I'll treat any problems and give it a second coat. And now here we are, it's the next day, it's still dry, thankfully, so I've got that second coat of candy red on the tank, and that should be it now. No more painting for me on the tank. However, I have to admit I did make a mistake, and that silly mistake was to do with this, the tail section, which I just finished respraying yet again. And the reason why I've resprayed it was because when I compared the colour red to the colour on the tank and the side panels, this one looked a bit darker, And I wondered, why does it look dark? It doesn't look right. And then I realised what I'd done. Once I'd undercoated it and got it all prepped for paint, I didn't bother spraying it with a silver base coat. I just went straight on to the colour red. And the reason for that was because I was stupid, I was rushing, and to be fair, the silver looks pretty damn similar to the grey of the undercoat. And that small difference means, even though I've got 2 or 3 coats of red on top of that grey undercoat, it looks different from the red on the rest of the bike. So I have to stop, prepare it again for more paint, give it the silver base coat, then give it this red. And thankfully I just had enough paint left in the can of candy red to go over this tailpiece one last time. So I've actually got through 2 cans of candy red, 1 can of silver, and I think 2 cans of etch primer to paint the whole bike. Each can's about £10 in price, so you can add it all up. So what's that, 20, 30, 40, about £50 worth of paint. I already had all of the wet and dry sandpaper and so on, so it didn't cost too much. Although of course I've still got to paint the 2K lacquer on top of this candy red, but I'll have to wait for about 4 weeks. So as I mentioned earlier on, that Spray Max 2K lacquer cost £27 a can, but I'm hopeful I can get the whole bike done on 1 can because it's quite a large can. I do however have 2 cans just in case. So if you add it all up, it's about £80 worth of paint to do the whole job. Not bad, not bad. A lot cheaper than the £500 it would cost me to get it professionally painted. Right, so that's it for the time being, because now these parts are going to get put away for about 4 weeks to let the paint gas off. Then I'll come back and spray them with that Spray Max 2K lacquer. So for now then, thanks for watching and cheers.